Hey everybody, welcome to day 4 of Food Freedom Masterclass. It's hard to say it like the F's. Food Freedom Live Masterclass. We're doing this. This is our last day. We're doing question and answer. So I have questions that people have sent in. So I had a little bit of time to think about a response. And then anybody who's live can do it in the chat, and then we can answer whatever you think. So anybody live, go ahead and put questions in. Anybody who's like watching the recording and you have questions, send them in, actually, because I do a podcast, Feed Your Soul with Kim. I do questions and answers on that podcast. So like you can get them answered on the podcast. So that actually could be something that we'll do if you're not able to be present, because I know a lot of you are listening to this afterwards, because it's hard sometimes to come live on places. So thank you for those of you that are here. Thank you for those that are listening. So what have we been doing? We've been talking for 3 days. The first day, we talked about diet mindset. We talked about how we could start looking at food and looking at how food is, how we have a relationship with food. Let me put it that way. How we have a relationship with food is what we talked about. And lots of things. Go ahead and rewatch it. What's been pretty cool is that each of the videos have been like 30 minutes, which is, I don't know about you, it's my sweet spot of like I could drive to the grocery store and listen in 30 minutes. I could get that done. Like, so that for me is always the sweet spot. So obviously I stick to it because it's what I like. So I put out, that's what I do. So the first day was about diet mindset, and it was about how do you look at food differently, and also your relationship with dieting. And actually, that was one of the questions we had today. So we'll talk a little bit more on that. Second day, we talked about emotional eating, and we talked about how there can be emotions that get in the way. And sometimes we don't even realize that that's going on, right? We don't realize. People say to me, Kim, I just overeat, or Kim, I love the way it tastes. Well, yeah, but if we're eating past full, probably something beyond it tastes good. Now, granted, if you're in Paris and you eat a couple of croissants, like just because you're in Paris, what the hell? Do what you do. Like, that's just, of course you do. But and I wouldn't call that binging. I'd call you're embracing Paris. Uh, but if it's at home every day, it's time to start looking at like what emotions are in kind of getting in the way. Third day, we talked about mindfulness, and we talked about how it's actually doing this Food Freedom live masterclass really put home to me how much mindfulness is critical, and how much being present in my body has been a key component to having a different relationship with food. So that really came home to me in terms of, how do I start practicing more mindfulness? How do I start having that? Remember, we talked about having that in your bank account, the barometer of, I have this much. How about if I have a little bit more? Because if it drops down in my mindfulness, then I can still use what I've got. That is kind of how the things, there's obviously much more to talk about, but these are some key things. I think I went back and just looked at the PowerPoint, and like every day there are key doables. So do that, go back and look at those and see what might work for you. So do you have any questions? Put them in the chat. If not, I've got some right here. So, or if questions come up as I'm talking about stuff. So the first question was, why can't I stop overeating? I thought, I mean, that's kind of, isn't that kind of what it comes down to? Why can't I stop? And I told this story before, but a long time ago, I'm a psychotherapist in the state of California. I met a guy who is a local psychotherapist. He probably is retired right now because he was pretty old at the time. I mean, he was kind of had old, let me put it this way. That was rude. He had old world views, but I said, I work with people around emotional eating. He says, what do you do? Just tell them to tie their hands behind their back. And I thought, he's a therapist. I go, oh my God, we need some learning here. I go, well, no, there's a lot of things like, and I thought that is the prevailing mindset is just tie your hands behind it. Just stop. Just stop. I was like, dang, if it was that easy, I would have done it when I was 15. Like I literally would have never gone down this path. So why can't I stop overeating? And I thought about that because I think it's a very good question, because even when we talk about these things, like, so why me and what do I do? And I think like if you're going to do this, I wrote down some ideas. First is talking or determining for yourself what level of deprivation do you engage in. And what's been interesting to me is that the whole, that first day of that dieting mindset, that really for me has been uh I hate that journey word, journey, coming to understand for me what feels like deprivation, because I have done things like tried keto. I just like the whole high protein. I was like, dang, that's kind of sounds good. But then I thought, well, but wait a second. What about vegetables and what about the things? And I remember trying it and I go, oh no, that feels like I'm not allowing other things. So does it feel like deprivation? It's very insidious, this whole diet mindset, and what's put out to us as normal eating is not necessarily. And it's really just looking at, does this feel like deprivation to me? Am I not allowed to eat things? And if you're not, then maybe that dieting mindset, remember we had the cycle, restrict, diet, restrict, you go around to binge, then you come up to shame and guilt. Then the only thing we know how to do is diet and restrict. It's that cycle that goes around. So are you depriving yourself of things? The other thing about why you might not be able to stop overeating is you have this idea of good and bad food. I can't have that. This goes into deprivation, right? I can't have this food. I can't have this food. I can only have this food. And generally, it turns out the good foods that you can have are lettuce and vegetables. Remember, I talked about no fat. One nutritionist told me, like, don't have any fat. But I was like, it doesn't taste good. But am I having good and bad? She obviously had oils were bad food. Oils were bad food. It's like, was like, no, it's not bad food. It's just, is it my right food? Right. So if you're unable to stop overeating, are you having that judgment about food? Another thing is, I'm looking at my notes. Oh, I know. Another thing about stopping, if you're overeating, do you have this opinion that your day has to be focused on food? When I was in all the different diets I'd had, I had to focus every day for the day, like in the morning, what I was going to eat for the day. But also, I had to focus on what I was going to have for the week. Because if I was going to we just went to a graduation party. My nephew graduated from high school. And on Saturday, we went to his graduation party. And back in the day, on Monday, I would have had to go, okay, we're going to Colin's graduation party. What am I maybe going to eat? What's maybe going to be there? I have to plan out my week, what I'm going to eat Monday to balance out what I'm going to have on Saturday. It was like every day was focused on food and what was I going to eat and what was I going to eat in the future, and that I had to eat today to counteract what I was going to eat in the future. So really looking at those, do you have deprivation, good or bad foods, focused on foods all the time? If those might be leading you to overeat, they might be. And once again, even for me, that whole diet mindset is pretty insidious, because it is talked about even among nutritionists that they talk about deprivation. And so it's really your decision. The other thing I think of is why it might be hard to stop overeating is that you're not focused on your whole self. Mind, body, spirit, right? What do we talk about with emotional eating solutions? The physical, the emotional, the mental, the lifestyle, which is kind of like going to a graduation party, the mindfulness and self-love. It's really got to be all of those. And when we're focused solely on food, we're only focused on a little bit of the physical. We're only focused on the amount of food we eat, what kinds of food, how much calories or macros or protein or whatever the thing is you've bought into. And that focus on the whole self really puts food in its proper place as nourishment. So really consider, am I focused on my full self? So the answer would be is like, why can't I stop? Well, maybe focus on all the mind, body, spirit of what's going on to start having a different relationship with food. And okay, so those are the things I thought of that I think get us back to what we've learned and just kind of honing it in a little bit. Uh, so the next question, this has been actually, I've gotten this question repeatedly. So I had to think, since I got it in advance, I could think through my answer. So what do you think about the weight loss shots? Like, what do you think about that? And I got to say, it's over the place. And my clients talk about it. They talk about that. They talk about the surgery and what do I think about it? And it, guys, like, it kind of makes me step back and think. So I actually wrote down some ideas about what do I think about it. Um, well, and why it's significant to me, and I don't know the answer quite because I don't tell people what to eat. I don't tell them what to eat. So you'll never find me saying, you should do this. I'll tell you, this is what I do. I have a certain style of eating that's been working for me and it makes my body feel good. Gives me the energy to do the things I need to do. So this is what I do. And I will say, I'll talk about that because like, it's just what I do. So what do I think about the shots? Well, first, I don't tell you what to eat. So like, I can't like kind of say what you should do with your body. I think that's the thing more is I don't tell you what to eat. And also I don't tell you what size you should be. I have, there's a lot of people I listen to that I was just listening to Virginia Soul, not Satir, Virginia Soul Smith. She talks about overeating and embracing a more body positive mindset. Also, I love Aubrey Gordon. She just has a new movie out, which I'm gonna have to watch really soon. I have to watch it on video. Your Fat Friend, Aubrey Gordon. They are extraordinary. And what they embrace is the word fat. And that's been a little hard for me. Like because I don't know what I'll say always is like, I don't know what fat is. And they would say, Kim, like, look at us, we're fat. Like they would say, we're fat. Like, okay. And they made me think. So even me, I've been doing this for a while. I've had to think. And so they say, this is the size of our body. This is how we eat. We're just going to embrace it and be the best us we can be and not buy into the whole diet mindset and the idea of what size their body should be. And they have really kind of blown my mind about thinking about weight. And I've always said, I don't know what overweight is. I don't know what fat really, I don't know the line between not fat and fat. Like, I don't know where those lines are. So I don't tell you what size you should be. And I think often when you go to the doctor, you go to a nutritionist, there's this BMI chart that's based on a lot of old, unrealistic data that tell you what size you should be. And I got to say, I don't know that bodies fall into that mapping of it. And so it's really you deciding for yourself. So I don't tell you what to eat, what size you should be. Also, the other thing I don't do, and I've had to think about this, like, I don't tell you what a diet is for you. I can tell you what it is for me. Like, there are these programs I've been on, they were diets for me. And I know there are other people in the intuitive eating space, in the anti-diet space, will tell you these things are diets. I think we all have to figure it out ourselves. We have to figure out, and me, even when I've been doing this for a while, like I still is like, ooh, that feels like a diet. I had a gym. So I was at a gym that would do what do they call? Oh, they called it a cleanse. It's so fancy. So on this week of, or no, it was like, how many weeks did we go? We went like 6 weeks. 1 week was a cleanse. Well, it's a thinly veiled fast, if you ask me, because it was just uh, juices and waters and vegetables. Like, and I did it one day and my head went wonky. It went like, well, maybe I could lose a lot of weight. Maybe this could, maybe this is the thing. Maybe I should keep with this. Maybe I should do this. I go, oh no, no cleanse for me. No cleanse for me because I couldn't emotionally and mentally do it. And physically, it was just making me feel horrible. So for me, that didn't work. For me, that was a diet. For other people, they loved it. They felt really good. They felt strong. And fine, do your thing. So I don't tell you what a diet is. So that's why I don't feel like I can tell you if a weight loss shot is right for you or not. I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that there are a couple of questions. Why are you doing this? And what result do you want? And why? And often I find that it's like, what do I want to do? I want to lose weight, Kim, duh. And why do I want to do it? Because I want to wear smaller clothes. It's like, okay, so why? Or the other one is that I want to be healthy. And I will always ask, what does that mean for, like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I'm not healthy. And because I'm overweight, weight does not mean health. It doesn't mean you have health or you don't have a lack of health. There are plenty of runners that die running that are like a body size that people go, dang, I would love to have that. There are people at all level of BMIs that die that aren't healthy or whatever we would call it. So I check in with myself about what is my definition of health? Why do I want to do this? What result do I want? And then what does that mean for me? Because it could get you on that diet, binge, shame, guilt, diet cycle. It might. And that's generally where it goes. So if we go back to the question about why can't I stop overeating? Well, maybe it's because we're too focused on food, and the shot is also then you're focused on food. Because everybody I know who does a shot it's focused a lot on food, which can lead to that feeling of restriction. Very individual. You get to do what works for you and just evaluate what it's about. So uh what I also think about it is the question of is this your path to wholeness, right? What did we just talk about with the overeating? It's like mind, body, spirit. So if I'm just doing the shot, like, am I focused on my emotions that lead me to eat, my level of exercise, my mindfulness, my self-love? How do I feel about my body? How am I engaging in life? And really looking at that in terms of, is this your path to wholeness? And a mind, body, spirit approach. So I'm not going to tell you to do it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but you get to make your own decisions. So that's what I think about it. And actually, I'll put these questions and the questions in the notes so that you can have them for yourself if you want them for the future. Okay. I think that's enough on that. It's really a check in with yourself. Check in with yourself. And the last question I got is, I'm not sure what to do. I feel overwhelmed. I'm sorry. I give a lot of information. Like I give a lot of doables. So let me back up and break it down. And I'm gonna apologize for giving a lot of doables because it can feel overwhelming, like, oh my God, Kim, you have all these things, like I don't know where to start. So let's just back that one up. So the first thing is to not take a lot on. Don't take a lot on. Just slow down. Slow it down. So what I did was I wrote down some things that I took away from the talks these last 3 days, and kind of they can be things I think that you can think of. So don't take it all on. So in terms of diet mindset, a couple of things you can ask yourself. What is dieting to me? Like, this is a great question. What does dieting mean to me? And also, in emotional eating solutions, we go through what's your diet history. That's another one. Like, what has been your diet history? How has it helped you? How has it not helped you? And there are things that I learned on diets that have been good takeaways. Uh, the keto thing, I actually needed more protein than I thought. Like when I was eating more protein, I go, dang, I feel better. So I thought, okay, let's do this. Like that was a takeaway. To have it be the totality of what I eat, that didn't work. But more protein, that was a win. So I take it as a win. So asking yourself, what is dieting to me? What is my history with dieting? And just look at what it's meant for you. I've told you guys a story of being on a Weight Watcher program, and she told us we needed to eat only a certain amount of carrots because I think they changed their program now where you can eat more vegetables, but carrots have a sweetness to them that she said only limit. And I go, oh my God, girl, if you're going to tell me to limit carrots, we have a problem. We have a huge problem. So, that felt like dieting to me. Like I can eat carrots and like let's just not have a problem with it. And the other one is what is dieting to me about the diet mindset and why am I focused on my weight? Why am I focused on my weight? And what does that mean for me? And is it about I want to look a certain way? I don't like my body. What I say, I'm doing all the chemisms, that you can't get to where you want hating yourself. You will never get where you want to go hating yourself. Never. So that is important. Is like, why am I focused on my weight? What does it mean for me? And granted, there's a certain size that makes it hard for you to do the things you want to do. And I acknowledge that. Like, let's own that. There's a, in the anti-diet space, there's a lot of body acceptance. And yes, and there's also like, I'd like to do, I had a client a long time ago who like wanted to walk the perimeter of Costco. I thought, dang, that's a great, be able to walk Costco without being winded. Like, that's a good goal. Like I resonate with that. Yeah. And so that's why she was focused on being able to be more mobile. Okay, good. What is this? Teresa says, for me, there's a connection with pleasure. I found that eating was my only connection to pleasure. I wasn't in the moment. I had to be more mindful of myself in the moment. Nice. Um, so it's interesting you say that because there's um pleasure with food. Like, do I engage, the food pleasure? Am I eating satisfying foods? Do I have pleasure? But also connection to life. Am I having pleasure in my life? I love that. I was, I do a summer bucket list every year. And it's like, what's going to give me pleasure this summer? And I've really been embracing that idea of what gives me pleasure, and within that, what foods give me pleasure? Because there are summer foods that I love me some watermelon. So we have that in the house. And I don't care that it has sugar in it. It's only available a very small amount of time, and we eat watermelon. So it gives me pleasure. So what does give me pleasure? And moving it, like, I love this idea of like, am I getting pleasure with foods? Because food is pleasurable. Like it just is. Does it taste good? Is it good? And is that the only place? Right? Nourishing myself versus nurturing myself with food. So, yes, what am I going to add in? So, what could I add in this summer, especially because it's always summer's about pleasure, I think. What can I add in that gives me more pleasure? That's more pleasurable. Love that. Thank you. Um, and so another thing about when you're feeling overwhelmed is look at your emotions and wondering, I liked the questions that we asked at the emotional component part. The emotional part is, do I eat for emotional reasons? And so you can go back to, and I'll put a link in it in the notes is, um, emotional eating, am I an emotional eater? Those are good questions to just wonder, am I or am I not? Am I an emotional eater? So back from what we talked about on the emotions days is identify your feelings and name them. Ask what the emotions are trying to tell you and follow that advice. I was having a lot of like just feeling confused and overwhelmed, and I just decided I was going to do a little bit more downtime during the summertime. My emotions were like, I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, well, what are you trying to tell me? Kim, you need to just back off a little bit, sit out in the sun a little bit more, go swim a little bit more, take a walk, get away from the computer, right? Thumbs up for that one, right? Walk away. It's like, because I sit too much when I'm in front here, right? And we all back in the day, we walked around our offices. You had to walk down the hall outside to go meet with people or go, and we don't do that. So that the advice that came to me when I was feeling overwhelmed is, Kim, you need to have some downtime away from the computer, away from the work, have some more downtime. So I'm going to follow my advice, right? And so the other thing about feeling overwhelmed with mindfulness was we talked about breathing and being in touch with your body and finding times to meditate. And meditation doesn't have to be long. I think I talked to you guys. Gabby Bernstein has an app, which I really like. But also I have Insight Timer, which is free. Insight Timer. And I know that there are a lot of other ones. I like it because I can have a minute up to hours of meditation. And it's one of them I really like is it's a gong, and then you just sit there and take deep breaths and then gong, and you're done. And you can set the amount of time you have. So those are the things I like to do to move out of feeling overwhelmed. The other thing I was thinking of is joining a supportive group if you're feeling overwhelmed. What's a supportive group that you can join? And these would be people who don't talk about dieting, don't talk about food, but just how to get more active. I have been involved in the past with Overeaters Anonymous. I like it, but I think I strongly recommend if you go to an OA group, go to one that doesn't focus on food, because there are groups that focus on limiting food, having restrictions, and go to the ones that talk about the emotions and the thought process, and you have a supportive group. The other thing, we have the Feed Your Soul community group in Facebook. It's a free group. You can join us in Emotional Eating Solutions. That's another place. So find a group that doesn't focus on food. The other thing about if you're feeling overwhelmed, make yourself a priority. I think this is back to what Teresa said about pleasure. Make yourself a priority. What would be pleasurable to me? What would give me pleasure right now? And do those things. Lastly, I wrote down, stop doing the same old thing and expecting different results. Have I been doing the same thing over and over again? Stop that. What's a new, so right, I do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So let's stop that. Let's go with I feel just what I said I did. I feel overwhelmed, take some deep breaths. What is that feeling telling me? What is that feeling inviting me to do? For me, it was, I need to slow down. Okay, summer's a good time to do that. Invite in more pleasure. What would give me pleasure today? And do that. So do something different. So, those are the questions. I don't see any more coming in. Thank you guys for being live, for being virtual, for being all the places. This has been super fun. I probably am going to do another live probably in September after the summer because I'm taking more downtime. Please check out Emotional Eating Solutions. It is a place to get the support, all the learnings. They're in bite-sized pieces. So if you feel overwhelmed, you just go back to what's a little piece I can do right now. So please check that out and join us. Check out the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I'll put all those things in later on in the notes I send out. But thank you all for being present, and thank you for participating today. And if you guys could do me a favor, if you email me what you got out of this, I always love hearing what you get because it helps me know where you're at. So let me stop the recording, and I thank you guys. Bye.